It's 12:14. I'm calling the City of Laredo's Historic District Landmark Board August 14th, 2025 meeting to order. May we begin with roll call?
Yes. Johnny Narvaez,
Present.
Jorge Santana Jr.,
Present.
Sara V. Garza, Teresa Barker,
Present.
Cristina Davila Villarreal, Wayne Nance,
Here.
Francisco Paco Barrientos,
Here.
Priscilla Iglesias, here. Mark Gonzalez. Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to excuse those members that aren't present?
Second.
All in favor? Against, motion carries. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to approval of minutes, we have approval of minutes of the regular meeting of May 8th, June 12th, June 25th, and July 10th.
We approved it previous minutes before.
No, we don't have quorum. We haven't had quorum.
Yeah.
Well, I read the last minutes, I moved to approve the minutes.
Give a motion
And second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Moving on, citizen comments. Good, any general comments?
Did you want?
No, we just, I didn't know what to do.
For a particular item?
Wanted to listen.
No, we don't have citizen comments at the moment.
All right. Now moving on to election of officers. We have the election of chairman and the election of vice chairman.
Is that something we're gonna do here?
This was an item that was tabled to bring back to the next meeting, but the last 3 meetings, since we haven't had quorum, we haven't had the election of officers. So it's brought back to this meeting. If you all wanna take action, you may. If you wanna postpone, it's however y'all wanna take
I'll
this.
move to make Mr. Narvaez the chairman of this board if everybody agrees.
If he accepts, I second.
Maybe you
You
accept.
You second? Okay.
I'll accept.
Then the vote would be, so for
Yeah.
chair.
Yes, for chair.
Okay.
So we have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Next will be the election of vice chair. And thank you for the nomination and election. Thank you.
Ms. Barker, would you like to be vice chair?
I will hold off on that.
What about you, Paco?
I'll be vice chair.
Move, I'll nominate.
So-
that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll get a hat.
Moving on to a public hearing and consideration of the following. Item HD 003-2025, public hearing consideration of a motion to consider the new construction of a covered stage, which includes a 16 by 10 primarily wooden structure with galvanized steel roof at rear of the property on Lot 8, Block 26, Western Division, located at 811 Eucaliptus Street. This property is within the San Agustin de Laredo Historic District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, just so that everyone has an understanding, the granting or denying of an application as per the Laredo Land Development Code, Section 24.1.2.22, the Historic District Landmark Board shall utilize the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and illustrated guidelines and rehabilitating historic buildings and the City of Laredo Historic Urban Design Guidelines. And these are the Secretary of Interior standards. These are 1 through 5. And the continuation of Secretary of Interior standards is 6 through 10. Now moving on to the agenda items for HD 003-2025. Neil?
The applicant is General Iturbide Properties, Arturo Garcia, owner representative. The property description and location is Lot 8, Block 26, Western Division, located at 811 Iturbide Street. This property is within the San Agustin de Laredo Historic District. The proposed scope of work. The applicant is requesting to construct a covered stage at the rear of the property with a 16 by 10 feet wooden structure with a galvanized steel roof. Letter sent 16-4-0 against 1. Previous action. On May 12, 2016, in a 6-0 vote, the Historic District /Landmark Board approved the demolition of the existing carport and the replacement of the existing fence with design scheme of a black bright iron fence. The proposed exterior paint colors were tabled for the following meeting. On June 9, 2016, in an 8-0 vote, the Historic District Landmark Board tabled the item as requested by applicant. On January 12, 2017, in an 8-0 vote, the Historic District Landmark Board tabled the item. On February 9, 2017, in a 6-0 vote, the Historic District Landmark Board approved the proposed scope of work to build a canopy/awning. The HDLB has approved the colors for painting in the existing structures. Background. The building type. The 1996 Historic Urban Design Assessment Report performed for the City of Laredo identifies the following. This is a small, one-story brick with stucco house built in the border vernacular tradition. The house is slightly set back from the sidewalk and it is raised about 2 feet off the ground. It has a wood gabled roof and wide overhangs that is covered in the standing seam metal. The house has an L-shaped floor plan. It has a Victorian detailing and on the columns and the windows, which are tall double hung types. There is a low chain link fence that defines the grounds from the sidewalk. Picture of the background. The example of the border according to the assessment report. The aerial view, the front view, the site plan, and the highlighted portion is where the proposed stage is meant to be. The dimensions and the details, 16 by 10 feet stage with a covered roof. And staff recommendation. Planning staff supports the proposed scope of work for the construction of a 16 by 10 foot wooden structured stage with a galvanized steel roof for the following reasons. The Historic Urban Design Guidelines. The addition of the stage at the rear property of the historic structure aligns with the City of Laredo Historic Design Guidelines as it does not alter or detract from the primary historic facade and avoids disruption of the historic street-facing character of the border vernacular. B. Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. New additions are acceptable only when they do not destroy historic materials, features, or spatial relationships and are compatible in size, scale, materials, and massing while remaining differentiated from the historic building. Staff general comments and the proposed motion. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor or against this item can.
Good afternoon, Arturo Garcia. I'm the owner of General Interior Properties and also the owner of the property at 11. It's been a continuing improvement on that property. This is just one added improvement to make the business a little bit better in terms of operating. It's currently used as a bar. They're very active with the youth of Laredo, and they have a lot of entertainment that comes in. And basically, this stage will help out in keeping that facility filled and occupied. Request your support on it. Thank you.
There's a stage there now, right, Art?
Yes, it's a very makeshift stage that they did just so the band would be off the ground.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's been there
I've
for
seen it there.
years since.
And so we're just putting a lean-to on it, so maybe you could do during the day? Or what-
Basically, they're
what's the point?
redoing the base, the
Okay.
deck, and then they're going to be putting up so we can have some shade.
Okay.
So if there's a little bit of rain or a little bit of mist, you can
That makes
actually
sense.
put some lighting too and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen bands there.
This is a public hearing. Anyone else wish to speak in favor or against this item? Are there any questions for staff or for the applicant? If not,
I move to approve.
we have a motion, a second. Mr. Garcia, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next public hearing, item HD-004-25. It's public hearing consideration of a motion to consider the exterior alterations of the front facade, which includes the new construction of a balcony upper level and the addition of the new glass windows and door openings upper and lower levels on west 15.42 feet of Lot 7 and east of 25.58 feet of Lot 8, Lot 35, Western Division, located at 1108 Ituvido Street. This property is within the Old Mercado Historic District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, the applicant is Freedom Property Assets LLC is the owner. Raul Ramses Trevino is the applicant and the representative for this case. The property description is the west 1542 feet of Lot 7 and the east 25.58 feet of Lot 8 of Block 35, Western Division, located at 1108 Ituvido Street. This property is within the Old Mercado Historic District. The proposed scope of work is an alteration of the exterior front facade of the building. The scope of work includes the following: the new construction of a balcony located on the upper level, the addition of glass windows and door openings on the upper and lower levels of the facade, demolition of the walls to accommodate the new openings, and significant alteration to the front facade. Note, the applicant did not provide any specifics on the materials for the proposed scope of work. The letters were sent were 31, there was 1 that was for, and 0 against. Previous action, on March 18 of 1999, the Historic District Landmark Board approved 2 canopy signs, one sign on the awning fabric and a suspended canopy sign. This is on order number 294. On April 20th of 2000, the owner of the property requested a reface of the signage of the property. The owner proposed to paint the message on the cloth awning and to paint the wood double-faced sign suspended from the canopy. Citations and violations. On Friday of June 2025, zoning enforcement visited the site and discovered a newly constructed balcony without a permit and without the approval of the historic board. The zoning officer issued a stop work order and issued a citation. Background: from the 1996 Historic Urban Design Assessment Report performed for the City of Laredo identifies the following. The building is a long, narrow, single-story masonry building built in the Mexican commercial style. The building frame on each side, the building framed on each side by 2 pilasters. The building originally had a storefront with an indented entrance. The canopy above the storefront was suspended by rods, and the banister windows came above the canopy. The entablature showed no elaborate frieze and it's crowned by a very simple cornice. This is what it looks like. As per the assessment, this is an example of a Mexican commercial style. This is the aerial view. This is the front view. This is the front view of what it looks like now. So this is what it looked like originally, and this is the newly constructed where it has the proposed balcony. And note that this is when zoning enforcement issued a stop work order with a citation for construction without a building permit and without historic review. This is the proposed floor plan for the layout of the balcony. This is the existing elevation of what it looked like prior to the balcony. And this is the proposed elevation of what it looks like with the balcony. This is a proposed rendering of what it's supposed to look like after. And the staff recommendation for this is staff does not support the proposed scope of work as is inconsistent with both the Secretary of Interior standards, the relatation, and with the City of Laredo's Historic Urban Design Guidelines. As per the design guidelines, the proposed alterations are not consistent with the principles and the specific guidelines outlined in the Historic Urban Design Guidelines. The project involves the removal of historic materials and addition of incompatible features and a complete refiguration of the primary facade, all which conflict with the best practices for historic preservation. The Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation states that the scope of work is incompatible with the standards as it significantly alters the historic facade, removes original materials, introduces non-historic features, and compromises the building's overall integrity. These are the general staff comments. And this is the proposed motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this item or against this item?
Can I speak? Yes. I believe the modifications to this building alter dramatically the facade. We have very little of historic architecture left in Laredo and what we have, I do believe we have to preserve it, and the duty of this board is exactly to do that. The changes are not only in colors or some aesthetic, it's heavy. And you're turning it into an Arabian thing, you know, and it is not compatible with the architecture of downtown. Hi, my name is Roxanta, and I'm my first time being here on the board. I'm director of the County Historical Commission, and I received a training on preservation with the Texas Historical Commission. I live in a historic home downtown, and I'm the president of the St. Peter's Neighborhood Association, Historic Neighborhood Association. And I do believe there are, we have to give liberties, but too much liberty is bad, and too much restrictions is bad too. But this goes way beyond what I consider personally to be what downtown requires. I believe with good efforts and preservation, preserving what we have, it can work with modern uses. We just have to get creative on how we do that. And I don't think this works. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here, please?
Yes, Mr. Rubino.
Sí.
Sí, ¿quieren hablar en el caso?
Solamente decirles que
Su nombre,
Raúl Treviño. Solamente mucho gusto, buenas tardes. Queríamos decirles que la propuesta que traemos o lo que queremos hacer es hacer que el centro se vea de alguna manera mejor que como está ahorita. Yo les he comentado a amigos, familiares que vienen, ven el centro y ves mucha destrucción, muchas cosas que no están bien. Entonces la propuesta es simplemente tratar de mejorar, hacer una fachada un poco más agradable, si quiere, a la vista de las personas. Y pues realmente es eso. No, respecto a tu comentario sobre que es algo de otro país, o eso se podría cambiar sin ningún problema, pero creo que la propuesta es hacer que se vea mejor, poner el granito de arena para que el centro se vea mejor. Realmente es eso. Gracias.
Creo que toda la ayuda que pueda brindar es indispensable para el centro en venir a invertir, pero también creo que hay una manera correcta de hacer las cosas.
Sí.
El problema que yo veo con esta estructura y por el cual pienso que la Junta, la ciudad no está recomendando no aprobar su modificación, es que cambia dramáticamente, totalmente el edificio. No lo está alterando un poquito para que se vea un poco mejor, no, está cambiándolo, es otro completamente distinto. Entonces, creo yo que sí hay maneras en que puede usted lograr el look que usted quiere sin alterar la estructura. Simplemente tiene que sentarse con un arquitecto, a ver de qué manera se puede lograr. Pero sí creo que esto es otra estructura, y no creo que esto se sostenga ante el tiempo. Creo que es algo, una moda, y yo no lo veo en el centro de Laredo, no va con la arquitectura. No es nada personal, es nuestro trabajo estar aquí estrictamente viéndolo. Yo le deseo la mejor de las suertes en que pueda lograr una manera en que pueda incorporar lo que busca con lo que se permite.
Okay.
Éxito, sí.
Mi nombre es Juan Fernando, vengo con Raúl. Había una manera sobre lo que se tiene y hacer modificaciones, cambiar ese estilo de otro país por algo que dé aquí con Laredo y hacer otra propuesta para poder presentarla, o es definitivamente.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah. Yes, you may.
Alright, so hay una organización, se llama Laredo Main Street. Ellos lo que puedes hacer es ir con ellos, y es lo que tratan ellos, de tratar de tener el downtown así como con un aesthetic, ¿verdad? Especialmente este edificio porque está en dos historic districts, ¿ok? So, ellos, si van con ellos, ahorita yo le puedo dar la información
Ok.
de una de las muchachas. Van con ella con estos planes, ¿verdad?
Ujú.
Ella puede mandar eso al Historic Commission
Ok.
y ellos ahí pueden revisar y darte todos los colores, los styles y todo del edificio,
Ujú.
like that historic original building, ¿verdad?
Ujú.
Para ayudarte si no tiene como un arquitecto usted
Pues,
de ahí. Y ellos te dan toda la historia del edificio y todo para que pues puedan hacer un diseño
Sí.
que
Ok.
es más compatible
Sí, que vaya
del
más.
district.
Ujú.
Ajá. So después ahorita yo le doy la información para que puedan agarrar esas resources, ¿verdad? Para
Ok.
ustedes.
Gracias.
Are there any additional comments for staff for the applicant or?
No, not at the moment, unless you all have questions for us, so we can answer anything that, try to answer to the best of our ability.
So this is a public hearing. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? If not, are there any questions for staff or any other additional comments from the board?
I'll have a comment.
Sure.
No es tanto que estamos contra el diseño que tienen, o será la cultura o el estilo de la cultura, no tiene que ver nada con eso. Lo que sí tiene que ver es la cultura del centro. Y totalmente estamos 100% que queremos traer más vida al centro, que haga más movimiento, más comercio, que se lance un poco más. Eso sí, con eso estamos 100%. Pero también a lo largo tenemos que ver si hay ciertos diseños que si dejamos a todos que agreguen lo que quieran, cuando quieran, entonces el valor a lo largo pierde valor los demás edificios, el centro, como todo un distrito. Por eso es importante detener un poco y tener las guías enfrente de nosotros para poder ayudarles. O sea, no estamos contra para tumbarlos o quitarlos, pero así como dijo Priscilla Loreto, Main Street, Webb County Heritage Foundation, todas esas organizaciones les pueden ayudar y darles una dirección cómo atacar este proyecto para que quede bien y que tengan ustedes que tengan éxito y al fin del día que tengan un buen negocio.
Muchas gracias.
If there are no other comments, what sort of action would the board like to take?
I vote against.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries to vote against the project. Moving on to next item, HD-005, 2025. It's a public hearing, consideration of a motion to consider the proposed scope of work for the Juan Francisco Farias residence, which includes demolition, exterior alterations, new construction, and restoration on lots 1, 9, and 10, lot 32, Western Division, located at 409 San Bernardo Avenue and 820 Iturbide Street. This property is within the Old Mercado Historic District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, the applicant is the Webb County as the owner. JHS is the architect, the applicant, and Eduardo Quiroga is the representative. The property description is lots 1, 9, and 10 of block 32, Western Division, located at 409 San Bernardo Avenue and 820 Iturbide Street. This property is within the Old Mercado Historic District, and the property is designated as a recorded Texas Historic Landmark of 2009. The proposed scope of work includes the following: the complete restoration of the primary historic structure, the reopening of the original windows and door openings currently boarded or infilled, the reconstruction and missing of porches using historic profiles, the restoration of limestone and brick masonry and decorative elements, the removal of non-historic accessory structures to create a pedestrian pathways and landscaping, the construction of the rear east side addition for the office use using compatible materials, installation of historic sensitive finishes including lime-based plaster and mineral paint, and the construction of the rear service yard addition to the east side of the property to accommodate HVAC and mechanical equipment. Letters were sent for 24. We did receive 1 for and 1 against. The previous action from February 18, 1999, the Historic District Landmark Board approved the request to change the message of the existing wall sign above the roof of the building. The approved signage measured 16 by 2 feet and was to be painted directly on the wall with a gray background and black block lettering. The original message said Ramos Garage and its phone number, and was approved to be changed to Cactus Mexican Imports. At the same meeting, the Historic District Landmark Board denied a separate request for a vertical sign displaying message car wash. The proposed vertical signage was measured at 10 inches by 8 inches. The background building type, as per the text that's written on the marker, since it is a recorded landmark, it states, the modified rectangular building house is built of locally fabricated brick clay with stucco. Rooms directly access the exterior facing the street or patio area. The house has 2-foot wide walls of brick and stone along with the 4 fireplaces. Projecting cornice features distinctive rectangular tool, stone projection with similar craftsmanship seen on the lintels. The trunnicated Corinthian wooden columns support the south entrance porch, and the site historically includes a stable and a cart house, water well, and censer. As per the 1996 Historic Urban Design Guideline Assessment Report, the building is set up to the edge of the sidewalk on San Bernardo Avenue. On the Iturbide Street, there is a 30-foot wide lot that is used for parking lot for this building. This is a 1-story building that is a one-time had its main entrance off of San Bernardo Avenue. The loggia that faces the Iturbide Street was a later addition done to the building. The building has a high parapet wall with a masonry coping on the San Bernardo side. The building has a border vernacular cornice with a projecting band below that identifies the frieze area. There is a shed-like masonry building in the back of the building that has a mosquito screen enclosed porch. This is the aerial view. This is the street view from San Bernardo. This is the street view from Iturbide Street. And this is the street view from Lincoln Street. This is the existing site plan. This is a proposed site plan. These are the elevations for the south elevation, the east elevation, the north elevation, and the west elevation. And this is a detailed view and design of the historic fence for reconstruction. This is a rendering of what it's going to look like, the proposed. Another rendering from a different angle. And the staff recommendation is planning staff supports the proposed scope of work for the following reasons. The project represents a comprehensive restoration and rehabilitation of significant contributing structures within the historic district. The proposed scope of work appropriately restores the historic building while incorporating sensitively designed new elements that do not compromise the character, materials, or spatial relationships of the property, and the project advances the goals of both the historic, the Secretary of Interior Standards and the Historic Urban Design Guidance as it contributes positively to the long-term preservation of this property. These are the staff general comments and the proposed motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor or against this item?
Yeah, I'd like to speak.
Yes.
My name is Zach Quiroga. I'm joined with Steve Tillotson. We work for the architectural firm that's doing the restoration preservation work on this project. We're not part of the original comments. We started this project in September, early September of last year. It's an interlocal agreement in Webb County in the city of Laredo. This is a project that is going to house the Veterans Service Officer, and there's also a museum component on the structure. We actually, the funding source was federal monies when we started the project, so we went through a very rigorous research period. You know, when you go into what they call a 106 review, it's not only the state review, it's a national review. So under that 106 review, you're not only doing the Secretary of Interior's requirements for exterior, you're also doing research on the interior. So we've actually looked at every single base molding, every single window, every single wall, the composition of the wall, the addition to the building. And Steve will give you more presentation on it, but there's 4 significant periods that we're actually, you know, that are considered the historic construction episodes. One of them being circa 1840 the other one being 1864, 1885 to 1889, 1905 to 1925. Just here, listening to some of the comments, it's very difficult because when you do restoration work, you're not only looking at the period that you have, because it's a fusion of culture and different designs over the period. So as a board, look to see what's the period they're actually trying to restore to, because, you know, we talked about, you know, one of the projects was just presented. You look at the periods of the building and see which is the most significant period, because over the years, some of these buildings go back to 1840. You know, we're currently working on the historical restoration of the Webb County Courthouse. And there's also different periods that you're looking at, because there's additions to it, so you don't grab the addition, you grab the most significant period. So we're here before you just to show you what we're doing, and also to show you that this is a draft of the historical structure report, which I'd like to pass around to look at. It gives you a detailed restoration recording of what's existing and how the building evolved over the years. And Steve, we also have a presentation it's a PDF presentation that we'd like to share with you guys. You can pass it around. There's another report on this side, see? Give it to the other side.
Right.
You can look at this one. Now, you'll see on one of them, it says draft. We are waiting for some of the final comments. We did submit it to the state. We got the Texas Historical Commission review. Like I mentioned earlier, very rigorous review process with them, several meetings, and we showed what all the construction documents said. And this is where we are now. Steve, I'll let you
Sure.
take it from
Thank you, Ed. And we'll be brief. I think this is a project that people are very interested in and probably will like a lot to see happen. But I think, let's see, forward?
The big button is forward.
Forward, big buttons forward.
Yes.
Okay, great. But there are some things about this that I think you as a review board might be interested in, just because I've done a lot of work for historic preservation projects, #1, and in Laredo, and I've learned some new things, and I just want to kind of impart those to you as well, because of the kind of the novel nature of it, the unique nature of it. But this has a lot in common with a lot of other projects in downtown in the way that it was developed. You had somebody coming in, buying lots, building their buildings on them. But the survey wasn't maybe quite done right. It didn't have the right benchmarks, and things happen over time, and property lines end up being different than what's on the ground, as it was recorded. So sure enough, this is very much like other buildings in downtown where you have one building, but actually spanning 2 different blocks and encroaching on 2 others. So those types of things happen, and of course in this project we're securing the right kind of right of entry and temporary construction easements to deal with it. But it does make things complicated many times, and this is just one of those complications that you're going to always encounter in the more historical buildings in downtown Laredo. And then you saw the views earlier from San Bernardo and from the south. And yes, it's true. The initial houses were built facing San Bernardo. Those were the entrances. That was the public entrance. This was really a side porch to a yard when it was a residence. But it really has the feel of a front entry in a non-residential building. And so that's why that is the entry to this building per se. But we really do want to keep the front facade, the west, as the principal facade. So there's a kind of a double-faced condition to this that we want to make sure that you don't lose the feeling that this has a side wall that faces San Bernardo, but was an entrance wall. And same with the other views. Now there were some buildings that were considered non-historic. This concrete block car wash, the metal canopy. Those came later, but there was an outbuilding right there that was probably after 1925, but it was really before the commercial encroachments into the site. And those are going to be demolished. Back of the buildings, much different than the front of the building, which faced the street. There were a series of additions over time, like
Ed had just mentioned, there were kind of 4 distinct periods of expansion at different times. And so there's a lot of work to do on these. This building really exhibits a lot of problems that early buildings have with moisture control, roof problems, foundation problems, but there are fixes for them that we're going through those treatments in terms of proper damp proofing, waterproofing, etc. I did want to make a correction to the record. There's no limestone on this building. It's sandstone. And it's the typical, you know, kind of Laredo, Carrizo sandstone that built a lot of the houses in Laredo. And in the interiors, there were a lot of damage over time. There was neglect, there was vandalism, several fires. And so all of that is being addressed. And of course, you had, this is one of my favorites, one of the most extreme treatment of a window I've ever seen. This is a torturous. The most that we can make of it, that this was the pantry portion of when it used to be a restaurant, and so they were continually getting broken into and always fixing up the window for the next, you know, to try to correct that. But in any case, this does have, you can see or can certainly make available to you, in all the different construction episodes and how that occurred over time. And it didn't, what's interesting is that the materials stayed pretty much the same. Sandstone walls, stuccoed exterior, but the styles changed a little bit with each time. And I wanted to talk about this because 1840, let me go back one. This is 1840 in the yellow, and then you get an addition in 1864, which is in the blue. 1885, you get these additions you see in the purple, and then you get some subsequent remodelings. And so what happens is that in 1840, you're building a building that is different than is going to be in 1885 or the turn of the century. And 1840 building would have looked like this, which is probably not stucco because we found evidence of whitewash on the stone underneath the stucco. We found some evidence of having an earlier brick cornice, not the cornice that's there now. And in later times, as they grew, they continued with, they covered things up with stucco, they modified the cornice, they replaced the roofs, they did a lot of things. And you end up a building, this is over in Azteca. This is the Leindecker house. The Leindecker house has kind of a finish to it on the exterior that is stucco, but it has these penciled, scored lines that make it look like ashlar stone. It has a base that has decorative stucco that looks like stone. It has decorative stucco that looks like stone lintels. And it has a cornice with inserts in it that is actually neither stone nor stucco. It's actually cast cement with a decorative pattern that's very thin that's put into the wall. Like the thin brick you see today on a lot of structures. So in downtown Laredo, at least, there's an adjustment in my mind about how I think about your buildings here, in that there was actually a fairly modern, unique approach to making buildings look earlier than they were, or different than they actually are. So this whole look is kind of superficial. It's not the deep cut stone heavy things. It's an interesting way to give a design character without spending a lot of money and time on it. Does that sound familiar? So it kind of makes me think different. And there's a lot of it, there's at least 10 buildings in downtown that are like this treatment. And so if you think it looks, you know, kind of like early 20th century, you may find an 1840s building underneath it and not know it. And that's really what I was really kind of interested to find out. And I think you've gone through the rest of this pretty much, or understand it. We're basically keeping parking on the north of the site, making a yard out of the south. The building itself will have two components to it, which will be the Veterans Office Services Office, as well as a museum exhibit area. We're doing complete restoration on the exterior, and on the interior, we're keeping many of the features that are there historically, but we are having to replace a lot of things that are contaminated with asbestos or lead paint, things like that, with replicated kind of components. And all that was summed up in the book, and that's showing the different episodes, different parts of this. And it even shows up in that wonderful 1892, panorama that you have of Laredo. And so that is the way the artist depicted the Farias house in 1892. And I think that's kind of concludes with, Ed, anything else you want to
Go
add?
back to the other two questions. So the idea is that the blue is the veteran service officers services area. On the north side of the property is where you do have accessible parking areas and drop-off areas for some of the veterans. The area in the gray is the interactive museum. It's actually the same team. If you guys are familiar with the water museum, it's the same collateral exhibit museum team that we're working with. And they are moving into more digital interactive type museum where it's interchangeable. One of the things for the museum that it's not for the research, it's not about the atrocities of war, it's more about the human level of the letters sent to mom when kids were being drafted, and that's the sense you're gonna get. There is and what we call this big space here, there is the memorial wall, which every single veteran will be on the wall, and you can actually click on each of the pictures and it'll give a little brief history of the person that served in the military. In a nutshell, this is, we're hoping for approval. There was a rigorous research on it. We're hoping, one thing that I want to add is that Steve, first thing I want to make sure everyone understands it, because I've asked him before, he wasn't here when they built it, he wasn't around 1840 because he's so knowledgeable about the projects. But he knows every single building downtown. He's the author of the Laredo Master Plan for Downtown. So he has extensive research on every single building downtown. And it's something we share with staff because we want to see if, we got to make it more friendly. I know everyone that comes in and wants to do something, they're looking for direction on it. But if we could provide, if the city as an entity provide just historical background on every building, it makes the whole process easier for people to submit and have more discussions. I know you talked about the stucco. It's not a cement-based stucco. It is a lime.
Yes, it's all lime-based.
Lime-based stucco. One of the things that we did find is there was the original lime-based stucco. It's not your typical cement that you see in stucco. It's lime-based. But the one change we do need to tell everyone here is that they used to use animal fiber, animal hair for it. We're using synthetic fiber for it, which is, you can't find animal fiber anymore. So that's really the one thing that comes to mind. The other thing is that we are replacing the roof. Once they take the existing roof out, we are looking at each of the existing structures there. We did find another roof that was sloping in the opposite direction, which our current roof is sloping towards the east side of the property.
East, yeah. Yes, and I think just the one comment, just to make clear, really that the period of significance as basically the Historic Commission, National Park Service like to say, is from 1840 when the first building was built, really to 1940, which captures all of the buildings that were built there except for the gas station building out of the CMU block and the shade open structure there. And that is really the residential occupation of the Farias family on that site. After that, pretty much after the war, they were moving away, sold it in 1973, and it was just they owned it, but they were using it for commercial purposes. So it does really fit within the bracketed a century of occupation, building and occupation and use over that period.
I do have a comment. Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to congratulate you on this project. It is the County Historical Commission we have sent enormous amount of letters to judges, the commission, Texas Historical Commission, for this house to be rescued. At some point the project might have been abandoned, but I'm very happy to see this. And I have a surprise for you. I have in my house for 10 years the Francisco Farias historical marker. And I've had it because...
We've been looking for it.
Well, I've had it because the house was still the way it is right now. We were waiting for something to happen to it, so whenever you want, I can give it to you. It's a marker that goes on the wall. It's a beautiful, huge marker. And it tells a story, you know, you probably know what it is.
We do.
Yes.
I guess, is that something that we need to bring back to you guys, because it's a sign? But no, we
No,
talked
not the
to the
marker.
GEC about the actual location for it.
Yes.
We even have lighting for it ready to go. We just couldn't find.
Well, we have the marker.
The research isn't there. It was given out and we tracked it, but you know, get to the point where.
It was in 2009, I believe
Yeah.
it was made, and I've had it for 10
That's
years.
terrific,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
in my
great.
house, waiting.
Oh,
So-
we'd like to put it back where it
Yes,
belongs.
so we can get in touch and I can deliver it to you. Just a letter of
Appreciate it,
reception
yes.
and it needs to be in a good place that
Yeah,
you
well,
can show it off.
We have to attend the ribbon cutting to make
Yes.
sure.
The project is in the permitting process, but we're looking at about 12 to 13 months for actual completion of
Okay.
construction. One of the biggest things that we had, as I think mentioned, is that, you know, this type of walls were actually hid footings. You know, it's not your typical spread footing that you find, you know, concrete. So those walls go down in some areas 48 inches, and there's a lot of, the type of construction does take a lot of moisture. So we're going in and separating the actual floors so we keep that moisture off of the walls, and that's part of the accessibility.
Yeah, really, I think one of the greatest good that this body can do is just help make sure that simple things like using the right plaster materials, the right roofing materials is appropriate. That saves a lot of buildings a lot of heartache.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
letting us speak.
This is a public hearing. Anyone else wish to speak for or against this item?
I just have a general comment about sort of the
Please state your
disparity.
name for the record.
My name is Brian Mack. Just sort of the difference between the two projects that were viewed here and presented. We have a local business owner who's trying to figure out something to do to bring some life back into downtown without the resources of a knowledgeable preservation architect or some of this in-depth studies. And seeing these two, basically, we're looking at sort of night and day, right? Especially with the rigor that you guys have to go through to get the additional approvals. I represent Killam Development. We're doing a lot of stuff downtown, and I would like to speak with you, sir, later after the hearing. We see the need for the improvements downtown, and they need to fall within a certain bracket. And the education of the building owner to have the appropriate resources is very important. And we could have saved this person a lot of heartache and money and frustration and banging his head against the wall that he built wrong. But having those resources, and I don't know the mechanism for promoting this, whether it is available online, whether it's, it seems like you've got, you're stuck. The gentleman probably leaves feeling like his project was stomped all over, and for good reason, it wasn't appropriate. But how do we incentivize more people to continue working downtown? I represent Killam. They've got the resources to do this, but the people who are continually been doing this for years and trying to keep downtown alive don't necessarily have these resources. And it's not a criticism. My question is how can we avoid things like that happening, right? So that there isn't this disenfranchisement of the people who just don't have that economic resource. Where is a group sort of, I know the Heritage Foundation is there. I was there yesterday. I had a wonderful talk with them. But there has to be a series of guidelines that could help people that going through this process.
Yes, I would like to make a comment. I know it's complicated, but it's not. I don't think it's a matter of resources, because I believe what they spend, for example, on the facade of the previous owner, is more money than it would be to leave it as is and just improve it on what it is. I think it's a matter of education. I have always wanted that anyone who buys a property in the historic district receives a packet of what are they buying into, because I don't believe when these properties are being sold to them they tell them, oh, you know, you're getting into a district that it has restrictions. Because if you look at the previous building, pretty much it's a new building. There's very little left of what was there before. So if you want a new building, why build there, you know, and where there's the restrictions and you have this and that. I believe education it's vital. Getting informed of what you're getting into, but I don't know if it happens in other historical districts, for example, Kings William and San Antonio, you don't get any information. You need to find yourself what you're getting into by yourself. But here in Laredo, I see businesses and homeowners doing the same mistake over and over again. And then they just come and say, I didn't know. Well, if you're investing $100, $200, $3,000 or more, you need to find out. But let's say it's a culture thing. Let's say it's something of Laredo that we don't find out. Well, let's make it a something obligatory that you receive notification when you're buying a property. I don't know if it's with the title or where you receive like a warning that you're buying into a property that has restrictions, and that so business owners or property owners know that, okay, I want to invest here, I want to commit, because honestly, I understand progress is what we want. A revitalized downtown is what we want, but why not do it the proper way, you know? And we can go back to an issue that happened a few weeks ago. El Mesón de San Agustín did a mural on its facade. And I had a meeting yesterday with the Webb County Historical Commission. We had a meeting, and all of them, it was unanimous that we want to send a letter in disapproval. It's not a letter that has any type of value, because we are not an entity that controls that. But I do believe that this board, the Historic Landmark Board, and that was not the board, it was the Director of Planning and Zoning of the time, Mr. Snyderman, did a grave mistake in removing the paint restrictions. Again, too much restrictions is bad, too much liberties are bad. I'm okay with more colors and letting people choose colors, but here, if you look at El Mesón, you have a facade of a dilapidated villa or something like that, Italian villa, on top of Mexican vernacular architecture. That's very little left. You have sandstone that probably needs to be a special type of paint that goes on top of sandstone so it doesn't damage the structure.
Mineral based.
Exactly. Did they use that? Did whatever? We don't even know. So the issue is not the mural. Is overimposing a mural that depicts another facade on top of what I consider a beautiful facade, which is that Mexican vernacular style. So, again, do we need a mural on each building downtown so people can come? Is that what's going to save downtown, this muralitis that we have? I don't think so. I don't think so. I believe that, as other cities have done, we can marriage our history, our architectural history with progress. And it's just something, again, of Laredo that we need to address on how we can communicate this to new business owners. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Just to add to that and possibly suggestion, there is issues with the concerned TREC, the Texas Real Estate Commission, where brokers are not allowed to represent properties if they are not knowledgeable about those markets. That's part of the law of real estate. And if you're a broker representing a building downtown, you have to at least have some sort of association with this board to understand how you're representing your client. Otherwise, the agent could be liable for lawsuit just because he didn't represent correctly what you can and can't do with that building. So I think there are venues, there are things that can be put in place. I love the idea of a packet. I think that more of that education is necessary. I think that some of these presentations need to be given to the Association of Realtors here, because it's important that they understand what they're
I think
representing.
you hit on something really interesting too, because the communication is the issue, where it goes to. Because you may have may have somebody on site who's managing the property, not even necessarily managing the property. You have somebody that's a business in a building. It's managed by somebody else. It is owned by another person. It's owned by another entity. So you have some layers to kind of push through, and it's a little complicated. But I think that if you did spend some time and a little bit of resources on figuring out all of those little pegs where you've got to plug into, you probably will figure it out, you know? I mean, I think some of it's site visit, some of it's communicating through, you know, ownership deed records. The real estate thing is a great idea. So, I mean, you folks know your community better than I do, but I think as long as you know, you've got to get to the right person. Who is that person?
Well, thank you. Great comments. We do have an item on the
Sorry.
agenda, so we do have to take some sort of action and move on to the last agenda item. So if there's no other comments, what sort of action would the board like to take on this item?
Just really quick,
Yes.
I'm just gonna add a little bit to it, because I'm not fully trying to figure out if I added the ancillary building also to the restoration, because I think it's just a repair. And I know that the board does not really review the repairs, but I would like to add it just in case for scope of work purposes. The ancillary building towards the back of the property, on the interior part.
Is it visible from the street?
I believe so, because if they're removing the structures that are technically not considered historical, you'll be able to see it, but they're just doing repairs to it. I just wanted to call that out. Is that correct, Mr. Secretary?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, yes.
So would there be amendment to the motion, or just you're just?
Just stating it,
Just
that
stating, okay,
it's
for
a
the record.
repair, for the record, it's a repair, but it is part of their scope of work as well.
Yes, motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. We have a second, by Board Member Barrientos. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to item HD 006-2025, public hearing consideration of a motion to consider the installation of an attached signage to the front facade of the building on Lot 5 and parts of Lot 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8, Block 1, Western Division, located at 1002 Grant Street. This property is within the San Agustin Laredo Historic District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is ABO Holdings Laredo LLC's owner, and Michael Haynes is the applicant's representative. The property description and location, Lot 5 and parts of Lot 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8, Block 1, Western Division, located at 1002 Grant Street. This property is within the San Agustin Laredo Historic District. Scope of work. The applicant is requesting new signage on existing facade. This includes one sign on the south elevation facing the San Agustin Plaza. The letter sent 21, for 0 and against 0. The previous action. On October 25th of 1994, in a 7-0 vote, the Historic District Landmark Board approved signage subject to paint in a terracotta color and subject to the removal of the Penetronic sign facing San Agustin Avenue and the El Margo sign on the front of the building. Background. The building type. The 1996 Historic Urban Design Assessment Report performed for the City of Laredo identifies the following. Most of the buildings facing Grant Street are of brick masonry construction, with the exception of the building on the southeast corner of the block, with which a more recent concrete masonry unit, which would be the 1002 Grant Street. Aerial view, the street view, the site plan, the dimensions and the details, the rendering, and staff recommendation. Planning staff supports the addition of proposed new signage on the existing facade facing San Agustin Plaza for the following reasons. The signage complies with the historic urban design guidelines by respecting the building scale, avoiding obstruction of architectural details, and maintaining compatibility with the streetscape. The proposed sign does not obscure or remove historic materials or features and respects the scale and design of the facade. The new sign is appropriately scaled and designed to complement the building's historic storefront features, avoiding visual disruption. Staff general comments and the proposed motion. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this item or against this item?
So I am the owner's representative, Michael Haynes. So with this building, of course, being on the St. Augustine Historical Plaza, one, maintain as much of the original building as possible with the exposed aggregate that you've seen, some of the stucco. Try to maintain as much as we can, repairing and not replacing that historical nature, even though it is a more recent building. We also were going to originally put a sign on the east-facing side of the building, which is the Tantangelo Park or walkway. But to avoid damaging anything with the trees or on the street itself, we decided against that and just maintaining the side of the street, the side that faces the plaza itself. So if it is appropriate that instead of the black channel side or letters for the side of the signage, we are definitely okay with maintaining terracotta style paint instead.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing.
Quick question, is it gonna be red or is it gonna be
Your name
white?
for the record, just.
Oh, Mario Gonzalez. Is the sign gonna be red or white?
So we were actually going to have it to where it is a frosted lettering. That way we can actually have back letter or LEDs for lighting in the back to light the sign that would be able to be color changing. We did provide daytime photos where we wanted it to be red, but to distract away from something bright and red in the evenings, we wanted to have it be able to be changed to white with some of the white surrounding area, increasing visibility of it and also maintaining some more, I guess, security within the front. I know before when the building was abandoned, we did have several break-ins, so just increasing the area with light for security rather than actual metal grating, which is quite common in the area.
Excuse me, one question. What is the type of lighting you're gonna use?
So it is LED. We already have the electrical done for the building. We just wanted to wait for the sign to be hooked up or approved by historical board, and then taking that into the building itself.
Thank you.
So, but you will not be able to see the LED because of the frosted lines behind it. It'll be.
No, I was just a little concerned of the brightness, that it becomes like this very bright, you know.
Yeah, no, so it will be
A
toned down.
little bit toned down.
Yeah, right now with that, it's just there was a lot of lights. We had a brand new architect starting, he did some of the renderings, and unfortunately, yeah, it does look quite bright on the night shots in the daytime.
And is this a lease?
It is a owned building, I believe. They purchased it 3 years ago. It's sat vacant, and over the last 2 years, they have been renovating the interior. While we've been just mostly focused on the first floor. In the future, they do hope on taking the second floor, which is currently just vacant space, and turn that into more of a training space for the facility once it gets up and running.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes.
And I'm not sure on that, maybe it's a staff, but is there any regulation, because that's such a historic, I mean, San Agustin Plaza is, I mean, it's almost kind of like the jewel or downtown, having this type of channel letter sign, even though it's gonna be frosted and it's gonna be LED, it's still gonna kind of counter to what we have there in that plaza, especially with the San Agustin Cathedral. Have you guys explored any other way of putting signage as opposed to just a channel letter LED sign? Maybe not lit. I mean, are you guys open at night? Do you need it to be lit at night, or?
So we can actually turn it off at night if that is a requirement, or just to where we're not distracting away from the plaza itself, or even changing it towards more incandescent. But most of it, of course, nowadays with everything being more energy efficient, we were doing LED that we could tone down to be appropriate for the center itself. We don't want it to be so bright where it distracts away from the church or even the hotel that's on the south side of the plaza being restored. We want it to be more complementary for the area.
I want to add to your comment. I do believe the lighting is going to be crucial here. Maybe not going to get approved, but maybe not, I mean, approved by the building, but all of the putting the sign. But so you can help us out that it doesn't look, you know, like it's out of totally out of place. Maybe not use white light, use a little bit warmer lights for the surrounding, because that's what the Tangelo Parkway has, this very warm, glowing, light.
Yes.
And if you put it super white, it's gonna just look like a mini mart, that's not.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
do have it to where they are adjustable for the downlights in the awning itself, so they can be changed from daylight, which is probably what is shown, all the way down to, I believe, a 2700 Kelvin, which is more of that warm kind of, feel that we're able to.
And by all means, I don't mean to insult the lighting design and the whole thing, but it's like almost putting a Circle K right in the corner, right in the smack middle of San Jose Plaza. With all the lighting, the fonts, the logos. And I understand the logo, I can respect the brand, but I mean, from this picture, it looks like a convenience store, like lighting of a convenience store that is right. I mean, maybe it would have been another block, we could have gotten away with it. I'm just concerned because it's the Plaza San Agustin, and it's our main focus. Our cathedral's there. We put so much emphasis on that plaza. That's a high tourist area. I mean, just the La Posada is also very historical, and then we have something that looks. And again, I'm making comments. I don't see a difference between Circle K and the
Well,
plaza.
I believe, I agree, and I believe the white would help if it's white, not red, and if it's dim and not white, warm
Yeah.
white,
Just to look into that a little bit,
Yes.
to where it just doesn't look like
Since it's so bright.
so bright, and it just kind of. I mean, that's the first thing that we see, and then you're actually seeing the entire historic lots thunder because of the bright lights and the logo, the commercial aspect of it.
So yeah, all the lumens and also the color of the light itself will be adjustable, so we will tone that down as much as possible to fit within the existing structure. So that is something we can check with the church on, to see what they use currently, so we're complementing it, not detracting.
I have a question for staff. So I know we're talking about color of lighting and so forth. Would that have to be noted in notes
Exactly.
for the motion? Or would that be necessary?
Yes, so when you make the motion, if there is a recommendation that you would like to include as per the motion of approval of signage
So warm white.
with
Warm
warm
lights and all the
lights
exterior.
instead of the bright
Okay.
LED light, I mean, that's something that you would need to identify. I did wanna address that in your packets, you do have the day version of the rendering. If you wanna take a look at what it looks like during the day.
Hey, Susan, I mean, you do understand, right, that this is, look, there was a research done, I think, a couple of years ago that showed that downtowns that have a lot of plasma centers is a sign of a sick city, of a sick downtown. Because it promotes poverty, it promotes a lot of that. But that's one thing aside, so let's not just put it like very out there, like, we're the plasma center, right? Just dim it down a little so it's more in
Fitting with the
fitting
downtown.
with the surrounding. We have the church there, we have, it's,
I mean, again, I know we're talking about the lights only. Have you guys explored even adapting yourselves on the design? I see these big walls on top, which is the ceiling, but even contributing something like, I mean, we're talking about murals. I know we're saying, we're gonna put murals all over downtown, but almost toning it down because it does represent that when you, those comments. And then my biggest concern is right in the middle of our diamond of downtown. I mean, the building's already owned by you guys, but if those walls could have something more that connects with our historic, and it's not just, we're just here to make money out of the historic area, but we really don't need the historic area, we're just here for the people because of the traffic. But how can we explore, or how can you guys explore, even if you need our help or with anybody, to contribute to that historic? I guess what I'm saying is that on this big walls of the second floor, even having some more of a historic look, pride to Laredo, to the community, and it doesn't just look like a plasma center and that's it.
Yes, so with that,
talking about the future training space, you can see there is one window in the corner there on the top right. We were going to have some more ornamental cast iron attachments on there, and hopefully more, once the center gets up and running in the future, adding more windows, looking more kind of like blending into the hotel just across the street, adding that ornamental iron on there to actually look like it's blending more into, rather than just a plain facade, making it look more homey, connecting to the existing structures. But that was something that's a future process, not for just this specific proposal.
Yes.
So regarding the building, obviously you guys purchased it with already like a newer design than the rest of the downtown, so that's significant, right? So that kind of also limits you guys as far as like, you know, financially. I also understand budgeting, like, okay, why are we gonna completely transform the building into something that it never really was? Or are we gonna keep it to how we purchased it, right? So that's one thing. Second thing, as far as the lighting, so this district is also overlaps with the TERS. And so if you do a little bit of research on the TERS and the projects that they've already proposed that they're gonna wanna do, they have, LED, I guess, what is it called? Like, they already have the type of LEDs that they're gonna be using in their projects. So if that's something that you wanna tie into the future projects that are gonna happen in that area, that would be a good resource for you guys to look at, just because those have already been approved, they've already been looked at, and it'll blend eventually in with what's gonna be coming into the future years. And then I would also recommend looking into the church, because there are some incentives for the building owner, that you guys can utilize also with you all as well. I know that there's that overlapping of the TERS. So just as a point of resource, right, for you guys, so you guys can make it blend a little bit better. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? What sort of action would the board like to take?
Motion to approve with comments, right? Yes.
Would you like to?
Yes, motion to approve with comments that the brightness be lowered and use of white light for the sign with a warm light all surrounding the building.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we adjourn, I just wanted to, I know
yes.
Mr. Santana already gave us a little introduction and so, but I wanted to welcome Mr. Santana to the board. He is going to be representing District 1 as a historic appointee.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, you were just appointed?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Nice meeting you all, okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Before we adjourn, I know it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to, or maybe another meeting or set something else, do explore the possibilities of creating more information, more communication, to your point, and maybe meet with Laredo Main Street, Webb County Heritage, any organization that is downtown. That way we start getting the circles tighter, so we can all be in the same page to create something, you know, to start something like that.
Does the
communication.
painting restrictions can be reverted by county? That there are no restrictions? The city, right, sorry, the city.
The city's paint.
Yes.
But, well, from my understanding, the ordinance was changed back in 2021,
Yes.
so.
And it can be changed back by the city, right?
There would have to be an initiation of an ordinance, amendment to the historic, guidelines on what, is considered, you know, what considers historic board review. And maybe if you would like, you can speak to your council members and to see if
So
they
who would
can.
initiate that, our council member?
Yes,
Representative?
yes, because it's an ordinance change for the
Okay.
non-development
Okay.
over the city.
Okay. So we had a recommendation to possibly look into further
Discussion
discussion
of
how to
communication
better
plan for,
inform
inform the community
Okay.
on
Yeah, that's
the
a
research.
good idea.
All right. Okay. Then if there's no other comments by the board, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I have one comment real quick. It's Mario Gonzalez, and we're here because we own the building next door to the Platinum Center. We're looking right now, and I'm glad that you made those comments because we had no idea where to start, what the highest and best use might be for the property. And so we got the notice for the signage, and so, yeah, we would appreciate getting some kind of direction on what exactly all the requirements and specifics are. So all we've done so far is just clean out the building. There was a lot of old, dilapidated, I don't want to say furniture, fixtures, and we cleaned it out, so.
Well, city staff can probably give you the best directions for every challenge you can go to for now. Thank you. So, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries, we're adjourned.